Oh, goodness. So, this is Parmigiano Reggiano. For this video, I'm going to show you the Grana Cut. Grana Cut is meant for Parmigiano Reggiano and Grana Padano. The reason it's a specific cut is that we are going to use specific tools to open these wheels of cheese. And if you look at the front quickly, I just wanted to point out the farm number, the consortium brand, and it's always branded with the month and the year of which it was born. So this one we can tell was born on in June of 17, so this is almost a 2-year wheel of Parmigiano Reggiano. To crack open this wheel, we're going to need to use our Parm cracking tools. So for that, of course, we'll definitely need a cut glove because we've got some sharp tools. You may remember our scoring tool from other videos. This is the main cheese we need this for. So the first thing we have to do to open it up and crack this wheel of Reggiano is to score this cheese all the way around, and then we're going to drive our other tools into it. We're starting with our scoring tool. We have a cleft knife. We have an almond knife ×2, and of course a chisel. These are all the typical tools needed to open up and crack a wheel of Reggiano. As we're going to crack this open, there are a couple things we need to ensure that we've done first. Number one is this cheese needs to be left out to get to room temperature. Leaving this cheese out overnight for 24 hours is really beneficial for cracking the Reggiano, because if you try to open this cheese when it's cold, the cheese will actually just shatter and kind of crumble apart. And where it's cutting it open when it's warm, the cheese inside will actually hold together a little bit. And when you receive it, you know, sometimes it could be a little bit oily because you've left it out. That's just butter fat coming out of the cheese. Just get a paper towel and you can wipe that off. I've pre-wiped mine, so I think it's nice and pretty and ready to go. Another thing is, sometimes when you receive this cheese, it does come in a box. And inside that box, there may be ambient mold. But mold buildup on the cheese needs to be wiped off. If it's heavy mold buildup on the cheese, you could use a little bit of water with kosher salt and kind of grind it off. Most of the time, though, just a paper towel, just to wipe it off, will suit you fine. So now that we've got our Reggiano wiped off, nice and clean, left out to room temperature, we're going to use our scoring knife, and we're going to score this cheese. And again, there is a lot of pressure here, so make sure when you're holding this cheese that you keep your thumb down, because this little blade could cut you pretty good. Let's be careful. So here I'm going to go in for a score. You'll see how the score is driven all the way down into the wheel of the cheese, and we're going to continue just to pull straight back with the blade all the way down. Perfect. Now for this, I always scoot the wheel of cheese to the edge of the table so I can get the cut to go all the way down. So I'll start again, and you'll see that I'm going all the way down this table. You heard a little click? That happens. I hate to say it. Some of your tables may get scarred in the cheese shop. It's slightly unavoidable. It's better to hit the table than your thumb. So for this one, we're going to go to the end of the table and go all the way down. Now we need to score the other side, and I simply just roll this around like so. It's kind of like driving a big ship. Now I'm going to take this, take our hook, our scoring tool, and again, all the way down. Now we've got to flip this up and score the other side. To do this, I pull the cheese to me, lift up one side, and with that, it's easy just to spin around and flip it upside down. Now we need to take our scoring tool one more time, and we're going to start where we left off, and we're going to meet these two ends up, just like that. Now it's scored all the way around. What we'll need to do is use our longer tools, our chisel and our cleft, to drive in and start to crack this open a little bit. So starting at the edge, and drive this in as straight as possible. This is the point to where if you go at an angle, the cheese will be cut at an angle and there's no way to save that. The good thing is, if you're cutting a whole wheel of Reggiano, you're more than likely going to be shredding and grating, so there's no waste. If you mess up, just roll with it. It's okay. So take it straight down. You want to go back and forth, wiggle it just a little bit, and from there you see how we're starting a crack. You can continue on with your almond knife, follow the line, wiggle back and forth. And this takes a few steps because you also want to take your chisel and drive it straight down. This is where you can see you're making a much deeper cut, flowing it all the way down. And again, you always want to rock it back and forth. And you see, I am holding this cheese steady. And we'll continue on with our Parm knives, driving it straight down and going again to the end. Now you'll see that we've got a pretty significant crack down the middle of it. That's what we're going for. We want to continue the motions through the sides now. So after we've driven this one into the side, we can leave that there, and this is my trick to use it as a handle. Now we have a way to move the cheese using these little handles, because what I'll need to do now is continue driving our wedges into the side of the cheese. And we're developing a pretty good crack, as you can see. The next step is flipping this big wheel of cheese over and doing the same thing on the other side. We'll flip this cheese over, set it down nice and easy, and continue the same motion as we did before. I always start at the edge because that gives me a much better crack and it's easier to open. So driving the blade in, back and forth motion, and just continuing on down the line. Another wiggle, and you'll start to see now it's actually starting to open up on its own, which is a lot of fun. So we'll drive that in. Now, we can take our tool, crack that open. This is 2 halves of Parmigiano Reggiano. So we want to continue though. We're going to have to score. We're going to do the same motions, but we're going to cut one of these halves into quarters. To do that, I'll need to move this wheel. So following the same motions as we did before, we need to use our scoring tool and continue with the exact same motions as before, making sure your thumb is safe. We're going to score this again all the way around. We're going to flip it over all the way around. And I'm going to make these 2 ends join up just like that. And now the motion should go a little bit quicker. Again, but always start at the edge of the rind, driving your tools in, creating a nice crack, and going all the way down. So with that, with these 2 tools left in, I'm going to continue going down the side of the Reggiano. All right, I see a good crack developing. So we're going to take these tools out. Again, we're going to flip it up on its long edge here and repeat the process. Start by cracking at the rind. You can tell, I can feel it right there. It's already wanting to crack. This cheese already wants to be eaten. It's almost cracking itself. Just like that. Now we drive that in, and we have 2 quarter wheels of Reggiano. But we're not done yet. We got to continue breaking this down. So here, this is the first time we're actually going to lay the cheese on a face, where we've got to, yet again, score the rind. But here, we're going to, like we've done before, butterfly this open. So here I'm going to take the scorer and go down the whole long edge of the rind. But the process otherwise is exactly the same. Stick your blades in, try to get them in as straight as possible, and give them just a smidge of a wiggle. And you'll see that they're already starting to open up for you. Now then, now we have 2 1/8 wheels of Reggiano. Now we can actually start making pre-cuts. So with this, we've already really got our rind, cracked and scored and opened up. For the next step, we can go directly to our platform cheese cutter. And with this, just like in the diamond cut, we're going to want to cut a piece of the nose off, and this is going to be a sellable piece. Now, Reggiano is one of those cheeses that can be sold in a little bit larger pieces than 1/2 pound, because people often buy larger pieces to cook with. So this is probably going to be more of a 3/4 pound a piece. Nice and easy like that. So just like in our Alpine cut, we're going to continue to cut into this this 1/8 of a wheel of cheese until we can get a better size to work with. So cutting into it, just about a 1/2 inch here. We've got a nice long piece. Now that's probably too big to sell just like that, so we'll end up cutting this in half. And now I feel like we've got a good size to work with where we can start making pre-cuts. So here, this is an area where you can again go 1/2 by 1/2 by 1/2. And you do need to use a little bit more force, of course, because of the rind. So make sure that you're holding it nice and steady. And always with these pre-cuts, you'll see that the rind is wider than the nose. So that means when we're going to do a pre-cut here, make sure that you angle the board, angle the rind here, so that you end up with what I like to call a bigger bottom. You'll see how this section is wider and it goes down. Once you have that cut, it's just one more cut till we get to our final piece. We're going to lay this down. We've got our rind meeting up towards the end here, and we're just going to, again, hold it with one hand and pull the wire with the other, and you end up with 2 beautiful pre-cuts. They are meant to be a little bit different shape, but these triangles, this is what you want. This actually is a good way because it's easy to hold for grating. It's easy for chefs or even home cooks to use. So these will be your end results. Now before you go wrapping this piece of cheese, you'll notice that you've got a lot of sharp edges. A simple trick that an old cheesemonger can share with you is simply by using one of your tools. If you're having trouble with the rind breaking the rind breaking the plastic, if you just snub those little tips off, it'll make it much easier to wrap. Wrapping a piece of Reggiano is a little bit tougher than wrapping, say, like a block cheddar. But with the edges cut off, again, you can get a nice, beautiful seal on this. And the main thing, again, is making sure that it's not ripped or torn, making sure that the plastic is covering the face of the cheese, and that all the bunching plastic meets up on one end where you'll place your scale label, and where applicable, your pre-pack label will go on this side.